Welcome to the program Power to Unite with Elvira. Kung nagustuhan po ninyo ang part 1 na interview natin with His Excellency Archbishop Bernardito Auza, siya pong currently Apostolic Nuncio to the European Union, kung saan po nakita natin bakit siya naging successful sa kanyang career as the nuncio. No, alam po natin he has so much, contribution to the academia. Ito po ang training school sa Vatican kung saan ikaw ay magiging future Secretary of State o kaya Apostolic Nuncio kung saan po ipapadala sila. Kaya itutuloy po namin ito sa pagbabalik ng Power to Unite with Elvira. Your Excellencies, what is the work of your dad? Do you have a business?
My father, tried to go back to school after the war, but in January 1945 they married, and then they didn't have a child immediately, but my father, so they got married and they had 2 children. My father's brothers and sisters, most of them migrated to Mindanao,
okay.
Because at that time there was this, I had a relative, the uncle of my father migrated to Mindanao, what is now the Compostela Valley.
Yes.
In the early 30s, and there he really had, we might say, he in that time you clear the lands and then you are given the title. So practically, what is now Compostela, practically he cleaned all those lands and had the title. And many of my brothers, sisters of my father went to Compostela Valley. My father went to Compostela Valley because, to see what he left his family in Bohol, my mother and his 2 young children. And my father stayed there for a few months. He didn't like it. He said it was too wild, not only mosquitoes, but all these bloodsuckers flying all around. He said, because at that time it was still huge forest. There was practically nobody, and so he decided to not to go back to school. And then he decided to buy pieces of land around where they started a house, and then really my father really primarily farmed, and so until the early 60s, and then. My mother was a dressmaker. She drew so many thousands of dresses, and she was rather...
Is she more, sabihin natin, leaning towards the term mas payus than your father? Because your father seems to be a business person.
My mother had a pretty strong character. My mother was one of those, we might say, constant, permanent leaders of the local chapel. She was the Hermana Mayor for a long time. My father was a politician, really, primarily. My father was a big political, local politics, because he was, most probably he learned that he lived with the Garcias for many years, and then Carlos Garcia wanted him to become a lawyer. I mean, that's the start of the story. That I said probably one of the, I wouldn't say displeasures, but certainly one of the dreams probably that my father had and was never realized. He wanted that one of his 9 boys would become a lawyer, but nobody wanted.
So at least one of you become a doctor.
The priest, and I have 2 sisters, an accountant. I have a brother who's an accountant. He works with the city of Oakland in California, and I have brothers who are engineers and a doctor. And so
non-lawyer.
And so nobody took law. Most probably it was too long.
My question is, before we go to your academia, because I know now you have a big family. Your father is a politician, more or less. The dream to become a lawyer, but did not push
He left politics because my mother opposed.
And your mom is very active. They
quarreled a lot on politics. Because my father was almost always away. I still remember the episode, what happened when my father just did not go back to political campaigning anymore. I think it was 1965, if I'm not mistaken. I was probably 5, 6 years old, but I could still remember.
Still young,
My mother was the hermana mayor of the
church.
church. And then there was a huge typhoon. It could be really 1965. And my father was in the islands campaigning for the mayor. He was the campaigner of the mayor of Taliban, Kasoila at the time. And then the whole chapel was just blown up, and my mother didn't have help. And my mother already was against my father always leaving.
Yeah.
And this is not. I think it's a funny story, but at the same time, it's, I don't know if I could say it publicly, because my father was also stuck in the island because there was a typhoon, and then the women of the barrio were saying, "Oh, my mother's name was Magdalena. Oh, Magdalena, we are sure your husband has another woman over there." My mother was a very jealous type. She was very jealous.
Very possessive.
Yeah, so when my father returned after that, my mother just went wild. She threw everything in the house out of the window. And the fish and the bread that my father brought to the house for the children, everything out of the window. And after that, my father did not return to politics. Yeah, so that was a kind of the end of his. My father was I think he learned the trade when he was young, but he did not continue. So he continued to farm. In the meantime, in 1964, my eldest brother, at 18, migrated to the United States to become a U.S. Navy. And then, as well as my second brother, migrated, and so they were American citizens already in the 1960s. And my mother never wanted them to go, and my mother never wanted to migrate. At the time, we could have migrated the whole family because we were all children. 1968, my brothers were already American citizens, but my mother always resisted until there was martial law, and then my elder brothers and sisters about to graduate from the university. And at the time, the economic situation was very bad. 1976 probably was really a very bad economic situation. And, we had hunting guns at home. We had a pistol, etc., because we live in a very, very remote area, and there were pythons all over the place even.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, even until now. And then, we just threw them to the sea, etc. There was martial in 1976, of course. So finally, my mother agreed to migrate. So 1978, my mother left. 79, my father also followed her. So that's why my brothers and sisters as well later on followed. So, but I continued to study at UST. I never studied in the US.
Itutuloy po namin aming interview sa pagbabalik po ng Power to Unite with Elvira. Your Excellencies. So will you consider that your mom is a very strong person, no? Very strong person, because your dad has to sacrifice being, the education and the
It was providential as well. I don't think we liked our father to be in politics anyway. So,
but with you, so young, because you said that you were around 6 years old. When you saw them quarreling with that young in mind, does it affect you a lot that you wanted to be different from, that's why maybe you entered this?
No, not really at that time. I don't know with my brothers and sisters, but I considered it as almost like normal in a family's life. Although, that was a big quarrel, really. I can still remember. And we could still remember, all of us, except my younger brothers who were still very young. And I think it kind of reoriented as well how my parents think their children would be. And although my mother always told me later, I was already a priest. My mother said, of all my children, you could have been the politician. I said, I never thought of it. I said, no, because when you were young, when there were political campaigns, you would always go there and you would say, I would like to see the face of this politician. And then he said you would comment about the speeches. I have some recollection of that. But he said that I could have been a politician rather than a priest. But I think my mother would have been against it. But anyway, I never decided. I never wanted to be a politician. Probably my mother said that because probably he saw, a priest giving a homily like a politician giving a political campaign speech. But really, frankly, I have never thought of really becoming a politician. I'm not to suggest it.
Your Excellency, so your life story is very interesting. And I could see that, as you said, the intention or the dream to become a priest has never entered your mind, right? Because I could see now, because my question was really, who influenced you? But nobody influenced you because at that time you were very young and you are number 8 in the family. And you could see in the friction between your dad and mom, I think in some way, I feel it must have a role in your life. That's why you try to be away from what they want you to be. That's why you enter the seminary when your dad asks you. I think you choose the path where there should be peace. And I think you find peace by being away from them to the seminary. Don't you think so?
Well, no, I don't think so because it did not enter my mind at the time. Most probably even in a retroactive way or as a retrospective. I don't know. It is not very clear to my mind. It was, as a matter of fact, being in a minor seminary. My brother was 12 when he entered the seminary, and he would cry all the time there in the seminary. And he was not the only one. There were some other boys, but I did not cry.
Okay.
And then our mother, the priests, at least one of the priests who were all friends of my sisters-in-law, because my sisters-in-law were very active in the church. They asked the mother to come over for a few weeks to stay, because their house was very near the seminary, to stay there in your house, and so that this boy probably would have time to make adjustments, to recover, we might say. So our mother came to live in the house of my sisters-in-law for a while, probably 2 weeks, like that. And then every day, the priest would allow us to visit our mother every afternoon. And then, that was enough, we might say, to... After that, my brother didn't cry again. I mean, probably she missed home, but it was a kind of a short time of adjustment.
Yes.
And then, of course, once boys like us, we gain new friends, and the seminary, very, very strict, we might say, regime of life, norms and regulations, and everything is regulated. So that's really, I think, one of the things that we priests have learned, and I think are asked to learn and must learn because discipline. I mean, to have a very regulated life, especially, the rhythm of the prayers during the day, and then to be able to not to, we might say, not to be aware of sometimes a very demanding schedule of a priest, especially in very big parishes. And so we have learned that. And then I think in the first months in the seminary, even my younger brother started to get adapted to the life. And then, the priest there's always an hour of sports, basketball, an hour of what we call physical education, of planting tomatoes, planting bananas. And then we have Latin, we have Spanish, and then, of course, the usual English and Tagalog, Filipino, and all these things.
Considering you were both very young, it's not very easy to adjust to another environment when you have so much, love and comfort with your family. And I could see, that a lot of sacrifice, right?
In a sense, when we left home, so many of our brothers and sisters as well left home because they went to the university. 4 of my elder brothers and sisters were in Cebu. They were studying at the San Jose Recoletos University, and and then in Southwestern University in Cebu. So in a sense, our house, it was not an emptiness because there were still my younger brothers and sisters and my youngest sister still studying there. But yeah, it was, I really, looking back to this period, I thought it was such a normal process. And then we had to leave home because we have to study. Mm-hmm. And the seminary is 130 kilometers from our house.
Imagine.
Yeah, so we went home only once a month, and then later on twice a month. It was, we were home only practically a day and a half, not even that, just a day, because Sunday afternoon we have to come back.
Your Excellency, your life story is very interesting, very different from what I learned, you know. But we will continue our beautiful conversation sa pagbabalik po ng Power to Unite with Elvira. So, Your Eminence, because the way when we analyze your life story while you are still young, the way you endure the loneliness, you know, the sacrifices, you know, then away, you said how many kilometers? More than
it's
200?
around 130.
Yes.
It depends which road we take.
Yes.
There is a road which is 155
Yes,
kilometers.
so far away, you know. So
and at that time, there were no roads in Bohol.
And being
took us
so
5 to 6 hours to travel. Yeah.
And being so young, you know, you are surrounded by family love, and then suddenly you are away. You know, I think it's a prelude, it's a right ingredient for you to enter academia, because without this experience in you, I don't think you will last. It's not very easy to be, you know, in the nunciature, to work as a nuncio, because, you know, based on the people, a lot of cardinals, when I was asking about their life story, it's really true. It's not very easy to really be, you know, included in academia, because it has to be, as you said, you were telling, it has to be recommended by a bishop, you know. So I think that would be nice when we talk about it, how you get involved in the academia, and later, because at least more or less, I know now where you get the strength to become, you know, because your mission is quite vast, and your experience is also something that I'm sure a lot of future Filipino who wants to be trained later on the academia can really follow your footsteps. Nothing is easy, but with endurance, with the love and support, and also with your determination and will, I think you can make it. Napakaganda po ng sharing po ni Archbishop Bernardito Auza. Siya ang currently Apostolic Nuncio po to the countries, sa European Union. So, hindi po madali, pero marami pa po siyang experience kung bakit humanga po tayo sa kanya. He is what he is today because of all his experience during his youth. Nung bata pa siya, the family, the support of family, and the sister-in-law and the brother, doon natin makikita na mold siya because of all these things. Kaya itutuloy po namin ang aming interview kay Excellency Archbishop Bernardito Auza sa pagbabalik po ng Power to Unite with Elvira sa susunod na linggo.